Hello, witches! It is Wednesday, which means it is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Yes, witches with goats talking about witches in movies. Have you met Philip or Black Philip or Black Philip or Black Philip, Black Philip, Black Philip, or Mothman or Bath?
Oh,
Soon there will not be room for our own human heads within means of restraint. But that's okay. We have been overtaken and overpowered. I am Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. You might know me from The Witching Hour, my regular podcast, from Ghost Adventures, from conventions and other television here, there, and everywhere. And I am honored to be with these four regular people. We've got our whole crew here tonight. So let them introduce themselves, starting with lovely Jason Mankey.
Wow, I expected that to be Courtney or Heather. I don't think I've ever been called lovely before. I'm Jason Mankey, harmless drudge, writer of 10 books for Llewellyn, including the upcoming High Priest, the biography of Raymond Buckland.
Thank you. Can't wait on that one. All right, Richard-Lael.
Hello, Richard-Lael is my name. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a... That is right. I'm known as the gentleman psychic. I'm a psychic and a medium. I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained some weight. I am well known in the paranormal world. You might have seen me on Ghost Adventures or at University Magicus or here in New Orleans.
Lovely Courtney.
Oh, that's me. I'm Courtney Buckley, Ghost Bait on Scared and Alone, and my Phillips are all right here. But I'm giving them the night off because this is my new friend and comfort object, Mothman. And this is the Build-A-Bear Mothman, which was sold out a lot, and I finally was able to get. And he has a shirt that says "The Man, the Moth, the Legend," because obviously, and he has little wings. And then when I made him be scented like bubblegum, because if you've ever seen the Mothman statue, which I haven't in real life, but if you've ever seen the Mothman statue in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, he has he's a bubblegum booty baddie. Also, I could not decide between which sounds to put in him, so I selected
I'm Batman. I am the Knight.
Because he is the knight, right? And then also because he likes to fly around. So he's my new friend. And so all the Phillips are over here having a night off because now the man, the moth, the legend is the star of the show. So thank you for allowing him to join us on tonight's show.
Of course. And just make sure you give them a little extra love. You know, when you bring a new kid into the household and the family, the older kids sometimes get a little worried, a little jealous. So them the love too. And let's move on to the extra lovely, curly, beautiful today, Heather Greene.
Hi, yeah, my hair is doing a thing today. So we're letting it alone and let it be its real self. Authenticity is important, even with hair. I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, the definitive guide, or a critical history of witches in American film and television. So I am also an author. I'm also a journalist, and I cover the occult as well as working with all kinds of great authors, also who write about the occult and witchcraft at Llewellyn Worldwide. So yeah, that's my life.
Thank you very much. And today's movie, that's mine, coming out from Llewellyn.
For example.
Yes. Thank you, beautiful Heather, with a lovely foreword by Heather Greene. I can't wait until everybody reads the foreword by Heather Greene.
Oh. I can't wait till everyone reads the book. It was so much fun to work on, Patti. You know your stuff for sure. It was great fun. I can't wait to do after editing it. I want to do all the projects now.
I know.
I only tried a few of them.
You're going to be so much better than I, because I don't have that artsy craftsy gene in me, and you do. So my puppet will look like a drunken 6-year-old make it, and yours will look like mine does in my mind, I'm sure.
But as you say in the book, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It works just as magic with the magic. So today's movie, The Gift, I had never seen it. a big all-star cast. We've got Kate Blanchett, we've got Keanu Reeves, we've got Gregory Kinnear, we've got Hilary Swank, and hopefully everybody watched it. You guys have been so good, and all you guys in the chat room, keep chatting away because we love it. Oh wait, Vincent of Dreamhouse got their Black Phillip 30 minutes ago. A birthing, you guys. Let's give that a beautiful hand. A new baby Phillip in the family. So thank you very much. On that, okay, I'm easily distracted because I can't breathe because I have Phillips and all of it. But you guys, we want your comments. We hope you watch the film. But just in case somebody did not watch the film, Richard-Lael, do you have a completely unbiased synopsis of The Gift?
I do. And because of the nature of this film, I am going to be succinct and I am probably not going to be funny. For those of you who have not seen this film, there is a trigger warning. There is some mentions of SA. There is a lot of abuse, which is foisted upon women and children. So if that is not something that you are able to process at this time, we completely understand. It's going to be a brief mention, but it is part of the film. And so we will go there. The story is about a woman in Georgia whose husband has died tragically, and she has realized that she has visions, that her grandmother was also a seer, and that she herself is a seer. And she helps a lot of people in the town, including the wife of an abuser and a young special needs or mentally challenged young man who's troubled, who works at the auto repair shop. These are some of the people that she works with. And as it turns out, a friend of hers, a socialite, is engaged to the high school principal, or this fellow that I think is the principal. Anyway, they are engaged, and she asks, will we have a good marriage? And she has an alarming vision. And when pushed, what, did you see anything bad? She denied what she actually saw. As it turns out, they go to a party that evening, and the lead, Kate's character, she walks into the bathroom, into the restroom at this country club, and sees this socialite having an affair with an attorney, a local town attorney. She pretends that she has not seen it. She goes back out. She goes to talk to the friend, the principal of the school. And then, of course, later on, the socialite joins them. It turns out that evening, this girl turns up missing. And the buddy, the young troubled man who works at the auto mechanic shop, she gets a ride from him home, and he has a near mental breakdown. And she says, well, I'll do what I can do, but you're not going to die if you look into the blue diamond. And then she gets a vision. She gets home. She gets a vision of this murdered girl. And she tells the detective, Pearl, I think his name was. She tells him, I saw her body. I saw she's in chains. She's in water. It's beyond. There are white flowers. There's a fence. She's in a pond in that section. And though he is skeptical, the police force do go in and try to find this body, which they end up by finding in the pond of the woman that was married to Keanu Reeves' character, the abuser. And when he comes back, he's angry. It turns out that he has had an affair with the woman on the night that she was murdered. He had beaten her up. She was having an affair with several other people in town. And so it devastates the entire community. And while they're trying to solve it, it's basically an open and shut case. Keanu Reeves' character is is taken to trial. He is deemed to be the killer. And then she has gotten close to the fiance of the deceased, of the victim. And she gets a call after court one day from Buddy, the boy. I need to talk to you. He says, I need to talk to you. And she says, Buddy, I don't have time. I'm dealing with all of this thing. I don't have time. So that evening, Buddy's mother calls her, and we have found out why he is angry with his father, why he has these feelings towards his father, and we find out what the blue diamond was. And so Buddy, dealing with all of his emotions that have been pent up for a very long time, murders his father in a very painful way, a deserved way, but a painful way nonetheless. And he is taken to an asylum because he has some unaddressed mental issues. So after the trial, the Donnie, I think his name, Keanu's character, has been sent to prison. And his wife comes in for one more reading. And she says, I need another reading from you. And I know this is the last thing that you want from me. And if you tell me to go, I'll go. But I really need one more reading. And she sits down. She says, I'm lost without him. I know he was abusive. I know he was not a good man, but I'm lost without him. And then she says, and I have to say that with that girl, when I saw her, I had unchristian thoughts. I was kind of glad that she was dead. I was kind of glad that she was not with us anymore. And so as the hero is reading the energies and getting visions, she realizes that Donnie is not the killer. She goes back to the attorney and she tries to get him to reopen the case, and he protests, saying, no, Donnie is a dirtbag. Donnie is in prison. It doesn't matter. He's guilty of other things. And she says, well, what will the people think if they find out that you, the prosecuting attorney, had an affair with the victim the night she died? So he offers her money, but she says, no, I just want you to reopen the case. As it turns out, she tries to tell everyone that this is what's happening, this is what's going on, that there's someone else. And people sort of pass her off. They sort of don't want to know. They kind of are fine with the fact that Donnie is convicted. So she's gotten close to this principal, the ex-fiance of the deceased. And he says, well, let's go out. Let's go to the area. Maybe you can see something. And they go to the area, and she starts getting flashes of the night. And she sees that this deceased had an affair with Donnie and had an affair with even Buddy. And then she sees that she sees something striking her. And then it turns out that the principal of the school, the fiance of the deceased, was actually the killer. He was pushed to the brink, and he was angry that she was so blatantly cheating. And she says to him that she didn't want him. She didn't really want to be anywhere near him, but her father liked him. And so he murders her and dumps her in Donnie's pond, chained up in Donnie's pond, and he admits to it. And so right when he goes to attack the psychic, Buddy, the handicapped fellow, comes up and strikes the fiance in the head. He passes out, and Kate's character says, yeah, but you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. And they load up the body, they put it in the trunk of the car. And as they're driving, she says, what are you doing here, Buddy? And he says, I escaped. I got free. Well, buddy, you know you're going to have to go back, she says. And they drive to the police station, and she is handed back the handkerchief that was her late husband's. And she goes into the police station and she tells what had happened, and she comes back out to the car, and Buddy is gone. Buddy is not in the car. They take the fella out of the trunk of the car, and he confesses to everything. And the detective says, well, how did you strike this fella? You struck him really hard. How did you do it? And she says, I keep telling you I didn't do it. It was Buddy that did it. I keep telling you Buddy did it. And he says, now, ma'am, I know for a fact it wasn't Buddy. And now this fella, he doesn't remember how it happens, but he doesn't recollect, but he knows that you were there. And he admitted everything. No, I tell you, Buddy did it. Ma'am, I'm going to tell you it was not, because as it progresses, that he took his life in his cell, and that he was not there in the woods in corporeal form. And then she goes home and she looks at her children, who are holding the picture of her deceased husband. And then the next day they visit the husband's grave. That is basically the way that it is. And I purposefully did not go into some of the more abusive scenes.
Thank you very much for that beautifully unbiased synopsis. Let's move it on now to Heather, because she's our expert on such things. Do we have 5 things that we do need to know about this film?
Sure. There's always 5 things to know about a film. Some more. This is The Gift from 2000. I'll talk about the context, of course, with witchcraft. We'll talk a little bit about the source material, where the story came from, the cast, the director, and then a little bit about divination. So first context, this is 2000. This was sort of at the end of the witchcraft movie craze, right after the Blair Witch Project and other forms of witchcraft and magic were being explored in films. It was also after witchcraft was starting to become more treated a little bit more gently, let's say, within movies, and then eventually television into the 2000s. You started to see differentiations between satanic witchcraft, scary of the late 80s and the 70s, into actually trying to break it out and saying there are forms of divination and witchcraft and magic that are okay. And this movie falls into that category. It is also, this is the beginning where you start to see witchcraft and women specifically that practice witchcraft and divination and magics are starting to be defined by women who need this because they've been abused. So just, you're going to start to see this at this 2000. It gets really prominent again in the 2010s. Okay. Just thematically. So that's sort of the context of this. The source material is really interesting. So the writer of this is Billy Bob Thornton and Todd Epperson. And Billy Bob Thornton was the key here. He wrote this based on his mother, who he says was psychic. So this is not a true story, but it was based on his mother, who he said, I'm just looking at my notes here. He grew up in Arkansas, not Georgia, first of all, but it was a Southern feel in Arkansas. And she had crystals and occult stuff. She took guests and clients into her house to do readings. She was able to see visions. She had visions. So the character is really based on that. He has also said the house and a lot of the scenarios, the setups, the feel of it was based on his own upbringing. So, you know, the Southern Gothic feel, although that's a whole nother, this really didn't have a Southern Gothic feel, but let's just, but we'll go into that in another point. But all of that came from Billy Bob Thornton's experience. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I read that he wrote this one before Sling Blade, but Sling Blade was 96. And so I'm not sure And then I read that he wrote it after, so I'm not exactly sure where it falls, but Sling Blade obviously was what he was known for back then, was in 1996. He did say his mother predicted he'd win an Academy Award at some day before he actually did. So that was where this movie sort of came out of. The cast, as Patti said, is top shelf. You have Keanu Reeves. I'll run through a bunch of this real quick. Keanu Reeves, of course, maybe some of you guys know him from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where he got his start. Went on to do Speed and Point Break, and then, of course, a big break with The Matrix. Everybody knows him from The Matrix. And more recently, if you're like my partner, Ben, you also love him in the John Wick series. But Keanu Reeves is all over the place, a very well-known he's Canadian, actually, and born in 1964. Cate Blanchett, our main character, she's from Australia, born in 1969. She is, of course, in The Lord of the Rings, which we'll see in a few weeks from now. She also was in the house, the clock in the wall. Courtney, help me out with that. The house with the
clock in his walls.
The house with the clock in the walls.
In the wall.
She also was in the more recent award-winning film Tar. She's been in a bunch of other things. Elizabeth, Don't Look Up. She's all over the place. Then, of course, Giovanni Ribisi played Buddy. He is in everything. He's one of those actors where you've seen him everywhere, but you can't name it. You're like, wait a second. He's everywhere. So some things, he started out My Two Dads a long time ago. He was in Friends. He was Phoebe's brother. Save It Private Ryan, Avatar, Million Ways to Die in the West. He's just in everything. Gone in 60 Seconds. You just find him popping up everywhere. Hilary Swank, as someone mentioned, I always think of her $1 Million Baby. That's the first thing I think of. She was in apparently Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, not the show. Who knew? She got her start in the next Karate Kid movie in the 90s. So these are some of hers, but she's in a bunch of stuff. Katie Holmes, probably best known for her Marriage, but she started out in Dawson's Creek, if anybody was watching that. She's been in a bunch of different things. Batman. She's here and there. Greg Kinnear. He's been a bunch of different things. You recognize his face, As Good as It Gets. You've got Mel, Sabrina. And who else do we have? Gary Cole. He was in Talladega Nights and Office Space, was just shown on the screen, I believe. Michael Jeter. I think of, when I see him, all I can think of is Mr. Noodle, Elmo's Mr. Noodle. From Elmo's Place. You guys don't have kids and did not watch Elmo. You don't know who Mr. Noodle is, but that's who I think of when I think of Michael Jeter. He was also in Green Mile. J.K. Simmons was just in Red One. If you saw that movie last year, 2024, he was in Juno, La La Land, one of my favorites. No Witches though. Spider-Man movies and Rosemary Harris Spider-Man movies. So there's just a ton of faces in this. I don't know if I got them all, but that's just kind of a little taste of that. Let's talk about Sam Raimi, the director. Of course, he keeps popping up, and I kind of blame our producers because one of them really likes him, or maybe they both do. But there's the Sam Raimi films. Oz, the Great and Powerful. I don't forgive him for that. Drag Me to Hell, we reviewed here. Army of Darkness, I believe we did, and hopefully one day we'll be doing Doctor Strange. So, and he's actually coming out with who has come out with a new movie that we might actually have on the list coming out as well. So he is definitely deep in our area of doing movies that are occult related or adjacent. And this one as well, although a little different. So the last thing I want to talk about is divination, the practice of fortune telling. One of the themes in this, if we move away from some of the more difficult themes, we can talk about the theme here in the treatment of divination and witchcraft and magic, which is always, of course, what I did in my book. What interests me is how they're treating it. And they treat it very respectfully here in that she is practiced and she is respected as a practitioner. And the people who doubt her ability are not people who doubt her ability are not treated well in terms of the way the movie places them morally. However, he makes a note at some point, saying that her practice is illegal or could be illegal. Does she charge? And she says, no, she takes donations. So this is actually true. So if you practice divination of any sort, you have to look up the codes, especially if you charge, and it varies from state to state. So in her case, she was wrong, actually. Georgia code and is Georgia code has it so the counties they can prohibit, regulate, or tax various forms of divination, astrology, clairvoyance, palmistry. So Georgia, the state, leaves it to the counties, and then each county and jurisdiction can decide what to do. And my county, it allows it as long as you're licensed as a business practitioner, you're allowed to do it. Now, that's not the case for every state. So again, I think this is really interesting, and I just wanted to point this out. So she was kind of wrong, because even in Georgia, you can't take money you can't even take donations. In Pennsylvania, I'm going to do last. I'm not doing all 50 states, relax. In Wyoming, one of the most conservative states, no person not legally licensed to do so shall represent himself for hire to be an astrologer, fortune teller, clairvoyant, or palmist. It's a misdemeanor if you're not licensed. So that state regulates it throughout. It's different. Again, every state, city, wherever you are, I'm sure Richard-Lael knows this because he does this professionally. Pennsylvania, there's actually a fight with a bunch of witches. They're trying to get the laws changed because in Pennsylvania, a person is guilty of a misdemeanor of the 3rd degree if he pretends to gain or lucre, to tell fortunes or predict future events by cards, tokens, the inspection of the head or hands of any person, or by the age of anyone, or by consulting the movements of the heavenly bodies, or in any manner, or for gain or lucre, pretends to effect any purpose of spells, charms, necromancy, or incantations, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on and on. This is how long it is. You can't put bad luck on people. You can't put good luck on people. You can't stop bad luck. You can't win affections. You can't make one person to marry. It goes on and on and on. This is a misdemeanor. You can't do it in Pennsylvania. So every state is different. So I think that's an interesting part of this movie in terms of representation of witchcraft and magical practice. So it's just like a little lesson coming out there. If you're planning on doing any form of divination, check your local laws and codes. And a lot of these were written, like the Georgia one in the 1950s. A lot of them were written in the 1800s. In my state, in my county, actually, you can't run your steam engines before 7 o'clock in the morning. So there's a lot of these codes are written from a long time ago and are very antiquated. So that is the 5 things you need to know about the movie The Gift.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is beautiful. I don't think we have fortune teller or psychic laws here in California, to my knowledge, and I've been breaking them if we do. I don't know.
They got changed in the 70s, I think, out your way in Los Angeles, and there is a feminist witch named Z Budapest who led that crusade to get those laws changed because she got in trouble for reading tarot, I think it was. So for California, we've been safe for about 50 years.
Yeah, Z Budapest was the first ritual I ever went to. She was in the 80s. She had came down to appear at Long Beach Women's Spirit, and I'm like, "Ooh, I like this witchy thing," and it was really feminine. It was kind of strong for what it was, but I fell in love. So she was sort of my entrance, or a little bit into it. Anyway, I'll jump in if anybody else have. I personally love the movie. I don't like violence. I certainly don't like violence to women or children or abuse of any kind, but I do love a good murder mystery. I do love a good murder mystery and a well done murder mystery. And to me, it was because it could have been anybody. Of course, if it's going to be Donnie, it's Donnie. He's the abuser, but then it isn't. And then you're looking at that lawyer. It could be the lawyer because he had an affair with her. And you get scared when Kate Blanchett is at his house in the rain, and she's like telling him to open the case. It's like, what if it's him? He's going to kill her. And then you're at the house, at Donnie's house, and Hilary Swank could have done it. Hilary Swank, because and again, I'm really good because I ran a murder mystery company. It's like, oh, that's too obvious. It wasn't too obvious for me. So I gave real credence for at least a few minutes to any of these people it could have been. And of course, the last one you think it could have been is the lovely, whether he was a principal or not, the lovely Greg Kinnear. So I thought, as far as a film, it was so well done, and I thought it was well acted. The weird thing that did bother me was the card she used. I'm a reader. I've been a reader for decades. She used Zener cards, Zener cards. They are to train you to be able to develop your psychic abilities, but I've never heard anyone, or look it up, that you use them to make readings themselves. To me, it's a training tool. It's a circle, it's a heart, it's a square, which you can do with regular cards too, but it's they've been used psychology and all sorts of things. So, and not that we talked earlier, you don't really need cards, and you could read any cards, as Richard-Lael says. And I'm going to say, Richard-Lael, you are so friggin' brilliant. I don't know where we were, maybe Massachusetts.
No, we were here actually in New Orleans.
We're in New Orleans. You read my postcards. You read my Patty's Power Penties, my Spellcaster, my Witches Movie Coven postcards, my Black Phillip postcards, and you gave me an amazing, accurate reading using postcards. So yes, using my pitch postcards. So you can read anything, but I would think these would be extra hard because there's like 4 cards in the deck, maybe 5. So that's a lot to get. It was your uncle on a Tuesday with a candlestick in the park. But again, that's the only thing that bothers me.
That was my first thought too, is, I've never seen anyone read with the Zener cards. I didn't know what they were called. I did know that they were used for training intuition, but then I did rationalize it away and go, okay, she is not classically trained. She is just using whatever she has, and maybe she didn't have access to tarot cards. This was 2000. She's deep in the South. Maybe she doesn't have Amazon, and maybe she doesn't have a witch shop. Maybe this is just all that she has. And sometimes, as someone who does this professionally, sometimes that's what you do. And maybe it was, in my mind, I rationalized, well, maybe she sees maybe it's in the layout, because there was at one point when she's talking about the girl, it was squiggle line, squiggle line, squiggle line. So 3 things that looked like water, and she was found in water. And then at a point when she's talking about Donnie, she has, if memory serves, there are 2 of the boxes on either side, and then there's a box in the middle, and that there were, I can't remember if there was a star, but I remember the boxes, and it was like feeling the walls coming in. But also maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe it was just like something that I did. Right before I left Los Angeles, I was on a show, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was sort of like Spy Kids, but it wasn't. And they had me as one of the psychic readers and as a street preacher, 2 roles in one, out on the Santa Monica Pier. And so they wanted 2 distinct characters, but they wanted the same person. So I was all dressed in shiny and sequins, and I had a turban, and they said, well, everything looks great, excepting your cards look really new. And I said, well, these are actually from a game called the Psychic Game. And I'm not going to read my real cards. I'm just not. I'm not going to use my cards for this. So maybe that was a prop department of, what do we have? Oh, this will work.
Maybe. Also, they could be, or not known, or they knew. Somebody in the really early on in the chat room had a good thought, and they were asking Heather or one of us, do you think that they use the Zener cards so to keep it away from being a satanic witchy thing, to make it more whatever? Somebody wrote that in the chat room earlier on.
From a film, from a cinematic or from an industry point at that no, that this was after Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There were movies with tarot all over the place. I don't think so. They called her a witch. They were pointing her. I think they could have picked oracle cards, which is these operate more like oracle than tarot in the way, the way she's doing it. Obviously, they could have picked any number of oracle cards that weren't the classic Rider-Waite, and like this deck, they would have, which might have triggered that. But I think there's plenty of oracle decks even then that they could have picked. or designed.
Maybe
I don't think that's the case.
maybe it is also the case of copyrights.
Yeah, U.S. Systems is quite litigious if you use the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck.
It's
Not now it's public domain, but then it wasn't.
I think they could have. I don't know if that would have been an issue for a film company that spent $10 million. They could have gotten the rights to use a deck. Maybe not that particular one, but the point is, I don't think they shied away from using a tarot deck because of the satanic thing. I think but maybe I don't know. I did look to see if there was a person, a ritual person, or anyone from the community advising, and it was not listed. That doesn't mean someone wasn't there. It just means it wasn't enough to list them in any records. So, but there are other oracle decks. There are oracle decks with animals on them. There's oracle decks. They probably could have gotten one.
Colin makes an interesting point. He said, looks like a researcher Googled psychic cards, and that's what came back, which is probably true. If you don't know the tarot or oracle, psychic cards, they would come right up.
Yeah. They just pick something. My guess is someone gets some psychic cards. Oh, yeah, that's simple. And they're also, if visually speaking, when the camera's on them and they're shooting a scene, those are easy to see. People can see the images easily. In something like this, it would be harder for them to see the detail. Those are very simple when you have a broad, a medium shot or a shot that's further back. You can still see what's on those cards. So it might have been a visual choice.
Maybe Billy Bob Thornton's mother used those kind of cards.
Hey, that could be too. That could be too. I couldn't find any research on that. I would have to do some deep digging to find if there's anything on why those cards. But
Billy B and me go way back. I should have sent him a note. He'd have been like, "Sure, Jason, I'll get back to you about that." That's how tight we are.
Not prepared as usual, Jason.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. I failed the coven.
That's it. I like a good old murder mystery with really good actors that I like all of them. So that's my whole 2 cents on it. Again, the violence was hard. But I don't know if it's any more scary than the Killing Tree.
I can't even laugh at that. I'll go. So full disclosure, I did not watch the movie because trauma and PTSD is a very finicky and weird thing. And normally in my life, watching movies with scenes like that doesn't affect me because I don't know. There's some weird part of my brain that is also the same part of my brain that suspends disbelief when there's plot holes in things and I love a movie and I can just get past it, that can look at a film and know it's actors and I'm not in danger. So I don't react to it. And I don't know if I've been sick and my defenses are down or whatever it is, or something just struck the wrong way. But I put the movie on and I did like 5 or 10 minutes and I had to turn it off and walk away. And I texted Richard-Lael and I asked if he had watched it yet. And then, he called me and he walked me through the rest of the movie because I was just trying to make sure, was it just the beginning and I could just move past it, or was it a theme throughout the whole movie? And when he described it, it was like listing off every trigger I've ever possibly had. So I stepped away from it and I decided not to watch it. From his description of it that he gave to us here tonight and that he gave to me personally, it sounds like it would have been a very powerful movie to watch, and maybe at a place when I'm in a better headspace, I can, and I would like to, because I love everyone that's in it. I love a good murder mystery, all that, but I couldn't move past what the subject matter was. And so it's, my mental health isn't great, but what I did do tonight, I know it's not technically time for it yet. I did not put together quotes, but what I did do, we just saw it up on the screen a second ago, is I put together a list of help, because if you ever find yourself in a situation where, you are in trouble or you're in danger, you're not alone, and there are resources. So these ones are really good and really important. You have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. The websites for all of these are really great. They have a lot of resources that you can click through. There's preventative resources, all kinds of stuff. But for the National Domestic Violence Hotline, you can call, you can text, or they have a chat feature. The 988 Lifeline is for suicide prevention. You just dial 988, or you can go on 988lifeline.org. As you can see there's links to substance abuse and mental health services. You can call, text, chat. They have assistance for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. There's the National SA Helpline. You can call the number. You can go on rainn.org. They have chat help, or you can call. And then Child Help, which is an organization that I've followed for a while. You can go to childhelphotline.org. Call the number. You can text help to the number. They have a live chat. Their website has a cool feature where if you're looking and you're scared and you don't want someone to see it, you can emergency exit to YouTube so that people won't know what you're looking at. There's also a Lifetime original movie, I think, about the people who created Child Help, which is how I found out about it. But that's for child abuse. So anyone out there who's watching this, you're not alone. And if you've already experienced it and it's over and you got out, I'm proud of you. And if you haven't, you can, and you will, and you just have to stay strong. You're stronger than they are, and use the resources, get help, because it's there and you can make it through. And so that's my contribution to tonight.
Thank you.
A great contribution.
Thank you, Courtney. Yes. Times are scary. People are, we can't even go there with it, but times are scary, and nobody's in their great place that I know of. So, okay, back to the movie. Thank you. Richard-Lael.
I say it was intriguing. I went into this film thinking, oh, goodness, it's another white trash, hillbilly redneck, every stereotype, throwing them in the book, you know. I was prepared to not like this film, but I did enjoy this film. Now, I did not grow up. My grandmother lived in Stone Mountain, so I visited Georgia a lot, but I grew up near Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, in that area. So I didn't personally experience some of these things myself, but I was privy to some of the things that were. I will say that the way her method of divining, I mean, the cards were weird, but the visions that she gets, the images that she gets, the little images is pertinent to the way that I myself read. And I always tell people this. I say, cards, they are not magic. Cards are tools that help us to tell a story, and I trust my intuition. And literally thousands of people trust my intuition. And for that, I am grateful. But I am looking through a small window into your world. I am the translator. I am the conduit, not the translator. I beg your pardon. I am the conduit, not the translator. And so where I trust my intuition, I get images, pictures, words, sounds, emotions, colors, pop culture references sometimes. And I trust it, but you have to trust your intuition as well. Because if I were to say to you, heart, it might have meanings to me, but something significantly different to you. So trust your intuition. And that's the way that it works. I get images and pictures and words and sounds. And the scary part is when the dead come through and they wake you up. I've had a couple of those instances even just this morning. And then also, you know, I told the story when I was on Ghost Adventures, but the way that sort of the picture starts to unfold. When I lived in LA, I had a client, long story short, and she was worried about her son. And the son had an incurable disease and was dealing with a lot of things. And I said, it's so funny. Does he have a girlfriend? She goes, nope, he doesn't have a girlfriend. I went, in my mind, I'm thinking that's so strange because there's a woman who's trying to cause him harm. But okay, maybe I'm wrong. And then I started going into the cards. And she asked, will my son live? And I said, you have to be careful, because you need to tell him you love him. You need to tell him that he is worth living, that life is worth living, that he's trying to hold on, but it's difficult. And she got really happy, and she said, oh, he's going to die, and you're certain it's not my husband? You're sure it's just my son? And I went, oh, it was you. It was not a girlfriend. It was you. Oh. So I liked very much that sort of way that Kate Blanchett read, because that's very much the way that my gift works. And I am self-trained. I'm self-taught. Yes, my mother, yes, my father, both in their own way. Yes, for generations back. But there was nothing formal. It's folk magic at its finest. And so I appreciated her divination.
Beautiful. Yeah, I did too. How she saw the visions, how they came and how they hit her. That was beautiful. So, thank you. All right, Jason.
I like this film quite a bit. I grew up in the American South, though. A lot of these accents did not hit me as particularly authentic. That was a little rough for me. Kate Blanchett is from Australia, right? Her attempt to do a Southern accent was a little off, I thought, in my opinion. But the movie keeps going, and it moves pretty quick. I do disagree with Patti, though. I thought it was pretty obvious who the murderer was. And that just might be because I've always thought Greg Kinnear has a very punchable face, right? Like,
You're not
for the
wrong.
last 30 years of my life, I've really believed he has a punchable face. So I knew immediately that he was the murderer. The first time I see him in the movie, like when he's not the first, the second time, and also he's outside smoking in the movie. The smokers are always the bad guys in movies. So dead giveaway right there. Knew he did it. But it's fun. The cast is really, really terrific. We didn't talk about some of them, but J.K. Simmons is somebody I absolutely love, and I think he's great. I didn't recognize Hilary Swank. I had to look her up, maybe just because I don't remember what Hilary Swank looks like, because I haven't seen her in 10 years. I don't know. But the cast is really great. So it's a movie that is definitely worth watching, and it looks good, too. It definitely has that Southern Gothic thing going on, and in that sense it felt true to form. It's just those accents, man, oh man, people just don't do Southern accent very well.
Well, and the problem with that is that living here in the South, and I didn't grow up in the South. I grew up in New York, but I got here as soon as I could, and the accents, when you live here long enough, the accents are different.
They're very regional.
Even in Georgia, like I can tell a North Georgia accent versus the plains versus the coast. They should have all had coastal accents. That was coastal Georgia. And you can tell by the landscape, it was coastal Georgia there. So that town doesn't actually exist. And so their accents they were trying for the generic Southern accent, because most people don't know. But for me, it was bothering me. I'm like, that is not a coastal Savannah accent. That's what the accent should sound like. And so that did bother me too. It probably wouldn't have bothered me, when I was in my 20s and teens.
Hey, y'all, just watch some King of the Hill. That's how them all talk down there in the South. All you gotta do is just put on their cartoon. Then there you go. That's what everybody sound like.
Their accents weren't even country Georgia. Like they weren't even like it. Just no. And that's what we have. Yeah. Anyway, so I do not think the cinematography did not capture Southern Gothic for me whatsoever. It didn't bother me that it didn't, other than the fact that there's a couple places that advertised it as Southern Gothic, but I did not get the haunting feeling in the cinematography whatsoever. I think this was a murder mystery. It was really well done. Loved it. Loved the acting. I enjoyed it, but the cinematography, I think it did not have that overarching Gothic haunting Southern feel that you get from Eve's Bayou, or you get from Midnight of Garden of Good and Evil, or any of those. This felt like a story set in coastal South. So I wouldn't call this Southern Gothic stylistically anyway, but I think that doesn't bother me because it doesn't, everything set in the coastal South doesn't have to be Southern Gothic. Just because there's Spanish moss hanging doesn't mean it has to be Southern Gothic. But it's a really nice, I thought it's good. I think the acting was good. And I did enjoy it, both from a perspective of watching, looking at witch films academically, as well as just watching the movie.
You're a movie expert, though. You know, I just probably say Southern Gothic because there were some trees in the darkness,
Right.
And it
Spanish
looked like
death.
and it looked like the South in some places.
Oh, it did.
Especially rundown areas that most of the time Hollywood doesn't go into. And I always appreciate that when it looks like a place where I might have had a friend live or something when I lived in Virginia or Tennessee.
Most certainly it did. It had the cypress trees and the bogs and the Spanish moss.
Mhm.
All of those things are very Southern Gothic settings, but it just, the tone of the movie didn't have it didn't, even with the ghosts. You had a ghost thing in it. It didn't feel Southern Gothic to me in the way Raimi filmed it. The cinematography wasn't haunting enough for me. But that's me, maybe.
Can I jump in real quick, off topic a little bit? Colin in the chat said, try being Irish listening to movie accents. I see you with that Irish, and I raise you a Boston, and people saying "park the car," and it's just
Park the car in Boston Yard.
it's Harvard Yard.
Whatever. Whatever.
They, like the best part of that is to me the accents that you hear in movies that are Boston accents that are like you look at them and you're like, that's a cartoon character. That's not a human. That's a cartoon character. Those are the real Boston accents. Like watching Thanksgiving and what's his name? Patrick, whatever, from
Dempsey?
Grey's Anatomy. Yes, thank you. He was all right. But then there's the lady that works behind the counter, and she literally sounds like a cartoon character. And I'm like, there it is, right there, almost Peter Griffin. Like that's what the real one is. So, yeah.
All right. So we have discussed the movie. I know we don't have quotes, so it's probably not real quotable anyway. But Jason, do we have a Mankey movie moment or minute or more?
Well, you see, I've been doing this show since September of 22, and it's been great spending the last 2.5 years with everybody here on Wednesdays. And during that time, I've heard a lot of nice comments about my hair. I feel like we've truly built a wonderful community of fellow witch movie nerds. And this is my favorite part. I truly have a very real third coven in my life. And I really wish everybody out there was on our text chain, because you would love everyone on this show so much more if you were on our big text chain, with the exception of me, who often sounds like an old man standing on his lawn yelling at clouds. But I digress. Also, during that time, some bad things have happened here as well, especially to me. I've had to deal with Courtney's constant hexings. Do you know how many evil eye bracelets that I have snapped because of Courtney? Dozens. And there's also knowing that deep down, despite his great love for me, Richard-Lael will never, ever love Anchorman. And it wounds me to this day. And then, despite being two of my favorite people in the world, Patti and Heather will always have haunted dolls around them, which means I will always be a little afraid of them. Few things creep me out more than haunted dolls. I won't even drink any of that Robert the Doll brand rum. That's like ingesting a demon. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have ever prepared me for this week's movie, The Gift. You see, there are only a few icons within Generation X, and most of them are dead. Kurt Cobain, dead. Spoiler alert, Lane Staley, dead. Tupac, dead. Biggie, dead. The reason I have long hair, Heath Ledger, dead. Brittany Murphy, dead. And while he is not dead, this movie had to turn Keanu Reeves, lead singer of the band Dogstar, Ted from Bill and Ted, and John Wick himself into a racist wife beater who yells witch. like it's the biggest slur in the universe. I think whoever picked this movie, Heather, is trying to retroactively ruin my teenage years, my 20s, my 30s, and everything else in my life. I cannot unsee Keanu Reeves being a jerk. No, not Keanu. I will not listen to such awfulness come from his mouth. And having to see sad Kate Blanchett, my precious Galadriel, Hela, the badass villain in the third Thor movie, Elizabeth the First, and I'm sure she's been in sad movies, but I avoid those movies. I can't avoid the movies we have to watch for this show. I don't want to see a widowed and destitute Kate Blanchett, and now I can't unsee it. And I also can't unhear her weird Southern accent, which will haunt me in every further Kate Blanchett movie. And why is J. Jonah Jameson from the new Spider-Man movies and the first Spider-Man movies hanging out with the Aunt May from the original Spider-Man movies? I'm so confused by this. Is this a part of the extended Marvel universe with Kate Blanchett's character, some sort of Southern Madam Web? These are the things that will give me nightmares, and these are the things I do not want to contemplate in this life. Oh, and little Katie Holmes sleeping with everyone in her southern town. This both made me sad and made me wish that I lived in that little southern town. I was not ready for all of these thoughts to descend upon me while sitting on my couch. So despite liking this movie, even if it was entirely predictable, I have to tell you that the gift is no gift. Please take this present away.
Whoa.
You know how hard it is to be funny for this movie? It is hard. It is tough.
One of your best. This is good, Jason. Thank you.
The Spider-Man connection is Sam Raimi, obviously.
Obviously. But making a Madam Web joke is something I've wanted to do now for a year, and I finally got to do it.
You
That is
did.
one of the
Check it
worst
off.
movies. One of the worst movies ever made.
Wow.
I'd take The Killing Tree any day.
All right. Well, it is that time. It is time to vote. Oh, before we vote, Christy, our dear, we love her, always here, Christy Cragen. We want to send you some healing love and some beautiful healing vibes. We are powerful witches, you know, so we're sending you all of our best. Beautiful Christy. So hope you're still there. We've been holding on to that throughout this thing. So we love you. And we're hugging you with goats aplenty.
And Mothman's.
And Mothman's aplenty. So that's beautiful things out there. So on that note, now we take to voting. Wands up or wands down? Diamonds up.
I didn't watch it, but I'm going to give it a wands up because it sounds amazing. And also, you all know that I'm a fan of the empowerment moment, and this movie gave me a chance to have an empowering moment. So I'll vote wands up for that.
You have a
Wands
light
up, indeed.
You have a light up wand this week.
This is a lightsaber. I've had this on my desk since we did Star Wars, and every time I can't find my wand, I use this.
Wow, and I've just never remembered that before. And what do you have there, Heather?
This was a little witch figure that my child made for me years ago. I left my wand in the back, so this is, I don't know, a 6-year-old made it, I think. I have it on my desk all the time.
It's better than what I could make.
Better than what I could make. So it's up, and I used a diamond just like on the belly of Daddy, but it's not blue, but it's a diamond. So okay, weirdly enough, this whatever discussed film, we are wands up. So what about you, everybody? Wands up, wands up. Didn't watch it? That's okay. We understand. Wands up. So it's looked like we don't have a wands down or even a neutral yet. So again, we forewarn people.
One's neutral.
Robert Hicks gave it overall a neutral.
Oh, he did.
As a murder mystery, a wand up overall film, I give one neutral.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry, Robert. I don't want to miss you ever. So anyway, what are we doing next week?
Wonderwell.
Mothman.
You're my
You're
Wonderwell.
Get out of my brain.
All right. Wonderwell next week. Again, almost all wands up, one neutral, but do be careful. It is violence and it is abuse. But besides that, they have fabulous accents.
And
All right, grab your goat. If you don't have your goat yet, go to mysterycontrol.com. You can get a regular Philip. You can get a bling Philip. And who doesn't want a bling Philip? You can get a Richard-Lael pillow. You can get a cloak, a cape, a t-shirt. We could do the entire house and your entire wardrobe at mysterycontrol.com.
And I have, so you can.
And we
'cause I-
have University Magic and Magic U. You can get my power panties. You can get my spellcaster line. You could get things from the school where Richard and I both teach magic and tarot reading or card reading. We both teach that there. So you could get your own Zener cards and, figure out who killed who in the meantime. Other than that, any last words for anybody? I'm good.
You can't get Mothman. Sorry.
You can't get
Convocation, Detroit, 2 weeks. I'll be there. It's one of my favorite pagan festivals in the country.
Perfect. So Convocation 2 weeks in Detroit. So go see Jason. One of these days I'm going to get to a pagan one, not just a paranormal one. Really, 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 I want to.
We're working on it.
Oh, thank you. All right. We love you. Thank you. We have one more thing to do. It is 7:01 or 10:01 or 9:01 or tomorrow it's in Australia. 1, 2, 3.